I'm Andy Pearson. I'm VP of Creative at Liquid Death. 250 miles in 98 hours in 4 days. A lot of running, man. I mean, going back, I remember in 6th grade, I had this teacher that, I'm going way back here. I had this teacher that we were supposed to be learning like a language arts class, and instead she spent part of the year teaching us about the evils of advertising. And we would look at like old Chivas ads and how supposedly the advertisers had photoshopped skulls and shit into the ad, into the ice of the liquor. And I think she was teaching us like the evils, but I'm sitting there going, this is really cool. and so yeah, I think like my whole, just growing up, I thought it was interesting to use advertising as this mass medium, but it's so boring and it's so dull, and people just, it's one of the least trusted industries in the world. And so if you look at like a really stale thing like advertising, I've always wanted to come in and just do something that nobody else has been doing. So my whole career, I've been wanting to do that, and it led up to, joining Liquid Death. And I think that's our whole MO is like, we hate marketing as much as everybody else does, as much as you do, as much as I do. I hate marketing. So can we make stuff that's not marketing at all? Can we make stuff that's entertainment, and yeah, it works as marketing, but it's entertainment first and then makes fun of marketing along the way. Yeah, kind of. I think I look at Liquid Death more as like a character than a brand. So the same way that you have people that are writing for your favorite TV shows and they know the character, I think for us, we're kind of making this character of Liquid Death and putting it out in the world. So like doing a Super Bowl spot, you're like, okay, if we're gonna do a Super Bowl spot, what would the character of Liquid Death do? And then you almost think like that, and you're like, well, it looks like a beer, and so, but it's water. So what if we just made a beer spot with people who should not be drinking beer, because it's always gonna be beer commercials during the Super Bowl anyway. So, then we just add the comedy in, we add the pregnant woman at the end as like the big last joke. But part of the way we approach it is thinking of it like SNL. Like Liquid Death is this. You shouldn't name a water brand Liquid Death. It shouldn't have a skull on it, but we did because it's funny. It feels like a fake Saturday Night Live brand, like it's come to life. And so I think we think about it like that. It's like that's part of the fun is imagining this thing that shouldn't exist, but it's real, right? You train for running 250 miles by running a lot of miles. There's no way around it, but I mean, you just have to learn, you have to accept all the pain and misery you're gonna go through. And I really think anyone can do it. You have all kinds of people, all kinds of walks of life out there doing it, but you have to commit to going through that. And there were so many times along the way that I wanted to drop out, and nearly did. At mile 97, I couldn't even walk. I was like I literally couldn't walk, and I just kind of gutted it out. And you know that the sun is gonna rise the next morning. It's just gonna rise on you 2 or 3 or 4 times when you're doing that, and you got to get to that sunrise. Yeah. I did, the most challenging ultra I've ever done was this thing called Ball State. It's 314 miles across Tennessee. Starting in Missouri, you go all the way across and end up in Georgia. So, and there's no support, so you're just running on the side of the road. I'm like literally on the side of the highway the entire time. There's no aid, there's no nothing. So you would just be running. I would stop in a gas station to get food. I literally ate out of gas station food the whole time. I stopped at Taco Bell once to get food. you sleep on the side of the road or like I slept in someone's driveway one time. People are sleeping in like park benches. It's a crazy race. It happens for 10 days. And it's just this band of people making their way across almost the entire length of Tennessee. And I made it 250 miles in that one. And then immediately at mile 250, I got shin splints, the most screaming shin splints of my entire life. And I had to run another 64 miles on pretty much the most pain I've ever experienced in my entire life. Another full day, just like knives stabbing in my legs for an entire day. So that one was pretty tough. Another of the most challenging races I've done is this thing called the Barkley Marathons. That's a kind of infamously underground race also in Tennessee that only I think 16 or 17 people in the world have ever finished it in about 35 years, where you're running around in the mountains of Tennessee ripping out pages in books that are hidden at different checkpoints in the woods. And it's hard just to even get in the race in the first place, let alone run it. So only about a dozen people have ever completed this thing in almost 40 years. Yeah. No. Of course I didn't complete it. It's the hardest race. I wouldn't be sitting here if I had completed it. I'd be like in the Olympics. Yeah, I mean, I run 5 days a week mostly, if I'm training for a big race, trying to do about 100 miles a week. If it's just a standard week, trying to do 50 or so. But yeah, that's 7 or 8 miles in the morning, sometimes 10, and then long weekends doing a marathon on Saturday and Sunday each day or something like that, or more. Yeah, I think copywriting and creative direction go together because you work out your ideas through words, right? Through writing. So by getting something down on paper, by struggling with it on the page and figuring out what you're trying to say, that process is where you get to the ideas. And so I think like the ability to, sometimes you write something and sometimes you're trying to figure out an idea and it's not working, and then you like write the name of it. You come up with some really funny name. You come up with some little sticky piece of language, and it just like suddenly clicks. And so I think the ability to write is key to unlocking these big ideas. Yeah, I've got my wife says she runs like a normal person, so she doesn't do this stupid stuff that I do. But yeah, and then I've got 2 kids who are 3 and 5, and they're nuts. And so it's a crazy house on top of all the running, on top of all the liquid death stuff. So it's full on days every day. We live, I mean, we do as much as we can, and I think even since joining Liquid Death, you realize that you have all of these choices. I mean, running naturally makes me look at the choices I'm making for my family, my body, and the environment, making healthier choices, making more sustainable choices. But even since joining Liquid Death, I think you realize that like the whole idea with Liquid Death is there has to be a better way to do everything. And when we started, everyone said putting water in a can is insane. Everyone's like, why would you drink it out of a can, right? And the whole thing was people have been putting water in plastic bottles for decades because it's a marketing strategy that they sold water was sold on the basis of purity. And so the way that you sell pure water is by showing it, and you show it in plastic bottles. And nobody had ever questioned that for decades. And so you think of all the waste, all that plastic waste that's been generated that's literally clogging oceans, clogging landfills, clogging villages, all these things, because no one had bothered to question that one little thing. Like, what if we didn't put it in bottles, plastic bottles? And so I think when we came out, when Liquid Death came out and put it in cans, everyone's like, that'll never work. It's too niche, that's crazy. And we kind of have been proven it does, and it makes sense, and it's better. No one just stopped to question it. And I think that's the rad part about Liquid Death, is everything we're trying to do is questioning every step along the way of how products are made, how they're marketed, the way that we advertise, all of these things. We want to do it better, and we want to reach people through humor and prove that like healthy and sustainable brands don't have to suck, because they do. All the health brands, all those sustainable brands suck. And so we're trying to do it for the first time through like humor and reaching people that way. I mean, I can't say a whole lot about the future other than we're gonna keep making crazy stuff, and we're gonna keep, people keep asking me if we're gonna soften as we get bigger, and not a chance. I'm Andy Pearson, VP of Creative at Liquid Death.